You don't need them. You never did. They told you they'd be there, didn't they? Promised they'd stand beside you when the storm hit. Swore they'd never let you fall. But when the sky cracked open and the rain poured down, where were they? Gone. Just like that. Left you standing knee-deep in the mud, drowning in the weight of everything they were too weak to carry. And you begged them to stay. You lowered yourself, didn't you? Like a dog chasing scraps, hoping they'd toss you some of the loyalty they made you believe was yours. But let me tell you something, and you better let this sink into your bones. You were the only one holding it all together. They needed you, not the other way around. They fed on your strength like leeches, drained you dry and acted like they were the saviors. But when you stopped giving, when you stopped bleeding for them, that's when the truth showed up. That's when their love, their loyalty, their so-called friendship crumbled. That wasn't love. That wasn't loyalty. That wasn't anything real. You've been grieving people who never deserved a tear. Breaking your back for connections that were nothing but smoke and mirrors. Look at yourself, broken, tired, alone. But that loneliness, it's better than being surrounded by fake smiles and shallow words. It's honest, it's raw. And if there's one thing you can trust in this life, it's the truth of your own shadow. Here's the truth they don't want you to know. You are your own army. You fought every battle they ran from. You faced every demon they were too scared to look at. When the world collapsed, they scattered like cowards. But you stood there, didn't you? Bruised, bleeding, but still standing. That's power, that's real, and that's why they fear you. They see what you are, even if you don't. They know you don't need them, and that terrifies them. But you're too busy crying over their absence to realize it. Stop it. Stop wasting your energy on ghosts. They were never with you. They were just passing through. Temporary. And you're eternal. They left you because they couldn't match your fire. Couldn't handle the heat of your ambition, the weight of your resilience. It's easier for them to walk away and call you too much than to admit they're not enough. You think you're broken? You're not. You've been forged in fire. Every scar on your body, every crack in your soul. It's proof that you've survived what they couldn't even imagine. You didn't break. You adapted. You didn't crumble. You evolved. And now you're unstoppable. You don't need their validation. You don't need their approval. What have they done for you, huh? When was the last time anyone showed up for you like you've shown up for them? Think about it. Who pulled you out of the darkness when you were drowning? It wasn't them. It was you. You dragged yourself out of that pit, clawed your way back to life with bloodied hands and a heart that refused to stop beating. You think they'd do the same for you? Hell no. They'd step over your corpse and call it moving on. So why are you still holding on to the idea that they matter? Why are you still pretending they're a part of your story? Rip those pages out. Burn them. Rewrite your narrative with one central truth. You are all you'll ever need. They underestimated you, and that's their mistake. Let them watch as you rise. Let them choke on their own regret when they realize they lost someone who would have gone to war for them. But don't you dare let them back in. They don't deserve your loyalty. They don't deserve a second chance. You're a warrior, not a charity. You've given enough. Now it's time to take. Take your life back. Take your power back. Stand tall, even if your knees are shaking. Speak loudly, even if your voice cracks. Walk forward, even if your legs feel like they're made of lead. Because this is your moment. This is where the weak would give up. But you're not weak. You're a survivor. You're the fire they couldn't extinguish, the storm they couldn't weather. You're a goddamn force of nature, and it's time you started acting like it. Let the pain fuel you. Let the betrayal harden you. Let every broken promise, every abandoned moment, every empty word become the foundation of your empire. Because you're not just rebuilding, you're creating something indestructible. You don't need them. You never did. What you need is already inside you. The strength, the wisdom, the fire. It's all there. And it's waiting for you to unleash it. So stop looking back. Stop chasing people who don't deserve to be in your orbit. Let them go. They were dead weight and now you're free. This is your time, your journey, your battle. Fight for yourself like no one else ever will. Because at the end of the day, when the dust settles and the world grows quiet, it'll just be you. And that's all it's ever been. So stand up, square your shoulders, look the world in the eye and say, I don't need you. And I never did. Let them hear it. Let them feel it. Let them choke on the truth of it. Because you, my friend, are untouchable, unbreakable, unstoppable. You're a goddamn warrior, and you don't need them. You never did. You think this is where it ends? Nah, this is just the beginning. The ashes you're standing on, they ain't the end of your story. They're the proof that you've been through hell, and you're still here. The proof that nothing, not the lies, not the betrayal, not the pain, could take you out. They tried, didn't they? Oh, they tried real hard. But here you are, breathing, fighting, rising. Let me tell you something. Every warrior needs to bleed. Every champion needs to fall. That's how you get sharper, stronger. They thought leaving you in the dirt would bury you, but all they did was plant a seed. And now you're growing. Now you're something they can't control, something they can't define. And that scares the hell out of them. They want you small, weak, dependent. That's how they feel powerful. But not anymore. Not you. You've outgrown them, outlasted them, outshined them. And now it's time to let them choke on their own irrelevance. Let them sit in their little circles, whispering about the person you used to be, while you're out here becoming something they can't even comprehend. They'll try to come back. Oh, believe me, they will. They'll slither back into your life with sweet words and fake apologies, acting like they never left, acting like they care. But don't fall for it. Don't you dare fall for it. They're not coming back because they love you. They're coming back because they need what you have. Your fire, your strength, your light. And if you let them in again, they'll drain you dry, just like before. So this time, you stand your ground. You look them in the eye and say, not today, not ever again. And then you walk away, walk tall, walk proud, leave them in the dust where they belong, because you're not the same person they left behind. You're something else now, something they can't break. Listen to me. You've been through too much to let anyone take anything from you ever again. You've built yourself up from nothing. You've survived storms that would have crushed anyone else. And you did it alone. Alone. That's the part you keep forgetting. You didn't need anyone then, and you don't need anyone now. Stop waiting for someone to save you. Save yourself. You've been doing it all along anyway. You don't need a cheerleader. You don't need a safety net. You don't need anyone to validate your worth, because your worth isn't up for debate. It's not something anyone else gets to decide. It's carved into your soul, etched into every scar, every bruise, every goddamn drop of blood you've spilled. You've been searching for closure, haven't you? Searching for answers, for reasons, for apologies that will never come. But let me tell you something. Closure is a myth. It doesn't exist. The only closure you'll ever get is the one you give yourself. Stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to move on. Rip that band-aid off yourself. Burn the bridge yourself. Close the door and lock it yourself. Because here's the truth they won't tell you. The past doesn't deserve you. The people who hurt you don't deserve you. And you sure as hell don't owe them a single second more of your life. You're bigger than the pain, Bigger than the betrayal, bigger than the little games they played to try and keep you small. And every time you look back, every time you let their memory hold you hostage, you're giving them power they don't deserve. So stop. Just stop. Look forward. Look up. That's where you're headed. That's where you belong. It's going to hurt. Yeah. Healing always does. Growth always does. You're going to feel the ache in your chest, the sting in your gut, the weight pressing down on your shoulders. But that pain, that's the fire forging you. That's the proof you're alive, the proof you're evolving. Let it burn, let it shape you, let it remind you of who you are and what you've survived. Because every time you rise from the ashes, you're sending a message to the world. You can't break me. You can't stop me. You can't touch me. And to the ones who left you, the ones who thought you'd crumble without them, let them watch. Let them see what happens when a warrior decides to fight for himself. Let them see what happens when the person they underestimated decides he doesn't need their approval, doesn't need their love, doesn't need their lies. You don't need them. You never did. You've got everything you need right here, right now. In your heart, in your hands, in the fire that refuses to go out, no matter how hard they tried to extinguish it. You're not just surviving, you're thriving, you're building, you're becoming. And the best part, they don't get to be a part of it. They don't get to share in the glory of your victory, because this victory, it's yours, yours alone. So rise, rise like the warrior you are, rise like the fire they couldn't put out, rise like the storm they couldn't weather. And when you stand at the top, looking down at all the people who doubted you, all the people who left you, all the people who tried to break you, smile. Not because you're bitter, not because you're petty, but because you know the truth. You didn't need them. You never did. You're not done yet. Far from it. This is just the beginning of the real fight. The one where you stop proving things to others and start proving things to yourself. You've spent too much time trying to make people see your worth. Trying to drag them along when they were never meant to come with you. Let me tell you something about life. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. They showed you who they were. Believe them. They left when you needed them most, and that tells you everything you need to know. Weak people can't handle strong souls. Cowards can't stand beside warriors. And liars, they can't stomach the truth. That's why they ran. That's why they turned their backs on you. Because you and all your brokenness were still too much for them. But now you've got to stop looking at the empty chairs around you. Stop staring at the doors that closed. They're gone, and they're not coming back, not the way you remember them. And even if they did, what then? You think they'd suddenly love you the way you needed, respect you the way you deserved. Nah, they'd just take more. Take and take until there's nothing left of you. Again. So close those doors for good. Barricade them if you have to. The ones who are meant to walk beside you won't need to sneak in through the back. They'll break down walls just to stand in your shadow. But until then, it's just you. And that's not a weakness, that's a blessing. You've got the time, the space, and the silence to build something unstoppable. You've got enemies, don't you? People who've smiled in your face while sharpening knives behind your back. People who've laughed at your struggles, gloated over your failures, and celebrated your pain. You know who they are, and you've been wasting your energy hating them, haven't you? Wishing they'd get what they deserve, hoping karma would balance the scales. Stop it. Stop giving them that power. They're not worth your hate. They're not worth a single second of your thoughts. Let them live their small lives, wrapped up in their small minds. You've got bigger things to focus on. You've got wars to win, mountains to climb, legacies to build. And trust me, the best revenge isn't watching them suffer. It's thriving in a way they never believed you could. They wanted you broken, wanted you bitter, wanted you stuck in the same pit they left you in. Don't give them that satisfaction. Every step you take forward, every victory you claim, every piece of happiness you carve out for yourself is a reminder that they didn't win. They don't get to win. Because you're still standing. It's not going to be easy. Let's be real. It's going to hurt like hell. Some nights, you're going to feel the weight of everything they did to you, pressing down on your chest, making it hard to breathe. Some days, you're going to feel like giving up, like it's just too much. But that's the moment you've got to dig deep. That's the moment you've got to remind yourself why you're still fighting. You're not fighting for them, not for their approval, not for their forgiveness, not for their attention. You're fighting for yourself, for the person you were before the world tried to break you, for the person you're becoming in spite of everything, for the person who deserves a life filled with more than just pain and survival. You don't need them, but you do need yourself. And that's the hardest relationship to repair, isn't it? The one with yourself. They made you doubt your worth, made you question your strength, made you believe that without them, you'd be nothing. But that was never true. The truth is, You've always been more than enough. They just couldn't see it because they were too busy looking for ways to tear you down. So now, you rebuild. Brick by brick, scar by scar. You take all the pieces of yourself they tried to destroy, and you make something new. Something indestructible. And yeah, it's going to take time. It's going to take patience. But every step forward, no matter how small, is a step toward freedom. Freedom from their lies. Freedom from their betrayal. Freedom from the chains you let them wrap around you. Let them go. Let the weight of their absence become the wings that lift you higher. You don't need their approval, their love, or their validation. You don't need their apologies, their explanations, or their excuses. You don't need their half-hearted promises or their shallow loyalty. You don't need them. And one day, when you've built your empire, when you're standing tall in the life you created, you'll look back on this moment and realize it was the turning point. The moment you stopped grieving what was lost and started fighting for what could be. The moment you chose yourself over everyone else. Because in the end, it's just you. The world doesn't owe you anything. People don't owe you anything. But you owe yourself everything. You owe yourself the chance to heal, the chance to grow, the chance to become everything they said you couldn't be. You owe yourself the kind of life that doesn't depend on anyone else. A life where your happiness isn't tied to someone else's presence. A life where your worth isn't defined by someone else's opinion. A life where you are enough, just as you are. So pick up the pieces, dust yourself off, look in the mirror and remind yourself who the hell you are. You're not a victim, you're not a failure, you're not someone's second choice. You see, the greatest lie they ever told you was that you couldn't do it alone. That without them, you'd crumble. They wanted you to believe that, didn't they? Wanted you to think you were helpless, powerless, incapable of standing on your own 2 feet. But look at you now. You're still here, still breathing, still fighting. That's proof enough. Proof that their absence didn't destroy you. It freed you. They thought they were the glue holding you together, but they were the cracks in your foundation. They weren't your strength. They were your weakness. They weren't your allies. They were your chains. And now that they're gone, you can finally see it for what it was. You can finally see them for who they were. But don't waste another second hating them. That's what they'd want. To live rent-free in your head. To hold space in your heart that they don't deserve. Hate is just another way to stay tied to them. And you've spent enough time bound to people who only ever dragged you down. Let it go. Let them go. Not for them, but for you. Because every time you cling to that anger, that resentment, you're letting them win. You're letting them keep you trapped in the past. And you're better than that. You're bigger than that. You're moving forward, and they're just a shadow in your rearview mirror. Do you feel that fire in your chest? That's your power. That's your will. It's been there all along, even when they tried to smother it. Even when they convinced you it didn't exist. It's what kept you alive when everything else fell apart. It's what got you out of bed when the weight of the world was crushing you. And it's what's going to carry you through this storm, straight into the life you deserve. But here's the hard truth you've got to accept. No one's coming to save you. No one's going to fix this for you. You've been waiting, haven't you? Waiting for someone to see your pain, to pick up the pieces, to lift you out of the darkness. But no one's coming. And that's not a tragedy. That's your liberation. Because when you stop waiting for someone else to save you, you realize you can save yourself. You realize you've had the power all along. It's been buried under all the lies they fed you, all the doubt they planted in your mind. But now, it's time to dig it up, time to reclaim it, time to remind yourself who the hell you are. You're not a victim. You're not some broken thing waiting to be fixed. You're a force of nature. You're a goddamn hurricane, tearing through everything that stands in your way. And if they couldn't see that, if they couldn't handle that, then good riddance. Their loss, not yours. They'll talk, you know. They'll whisper about you behind your back, spinning stories to make themselves feel better. They'll call you cold, call you distant, call you selfish. Let them say whatever they need to say to sleep at night. Their words can't touch you anymore. Their opinions don't define you. You've got nothing to prove to them, nothing to explain. The only person you owe anything to is yourself. So stop chasing their approval. Stop bending over backward to make them happy. Stop dimming your light just to make them comfortable. You don't exist to please anyone. You don't exist to be liked. You exist to be free, to be powerful, to be unapologetically you. And let me tell you something else. You're going to scare people. Your strength, your resilience, your fire. It's going to intimidate them. It's going to make them uncomfortable. They'll try to tear you down because they can't stand to see you rise. But don't you dare let them. Don't you dare shrink yourself to make them feel big. Stand tall, stand proud. Be the person they said you couldn't be. Live the life they said you didn't deserve. not out of spite, but out of love. For yourself, for your journey, for the person you fought so damn hard to become. Because you didn't go through all that pain for nothing. You didn't survive the betrayal, the heartbreak, the loneliness just to settle for mediocrity. No, you're here to build something extraordinary. You're here to live a life that makes all that suffering worth it. And yeah, there'll be days when it feels like too much. Days when the weight of it all threatens to crush you. But those are the days you've got to dig deep. Those are the days you've got to remember why you're still fighting. You're not fighting for them. You're not fighting to prove anything to anyone else. You're fighting for yourself, for the person who refused to give up, even when the world gave up on them. For the person who deserves more than just survival. So let the fire inside you burn brighter. Let it consume every doubt, every fear, every lie they ever told you. Let it fuel you as you rise, as you build, as you become something they could never even dream of. Because you don't need them. You never did. And when you finally reach the top, when you've built your empire and claimed your throne, you won't look back with regret. You won't look back with anger. You'll look back with pride, knowing you did it all on your own. Knowing you're not just surviving, you're thriving. Knowing you're not just strong, you're unstoppable. Knowing you're not just enough, you're more than they ever deserved. So go ahead, burn the bridges, close the doors, walk away from everything and everyone that doesn't serve you. This is your time, your journey, your life, and you don't need them. You never did.